So you want to make sure and fire that. And then they go up between, close to the bone. And in here is some pectoral muscles, and here is our serratus, and the serratus anterior, like witch fingers, come around the side of the ribs. They make you like that, doing crow pose, for example, and then rhomboids, which do the opposite. So the interplay between those two, connecting into the erectors and moving down the back. So your deep core line of the arms connects here, moves down into the erectors, the muscles alongside the spine, and the quadratus lumborum, which comes to connect the hips and the back of the ribs. So that's, the quadratus is what hikes your hip up like this. That's what I was having you kind of press down the leg for in our twists. So you get out of overusing that, because that can really tighten your back. But it's also known as a deep core muscle. So that's the thing that helps you curve the sacrum in and up, or arch your back, but then you want to counteract it with another core muscle called the psoas in front. Psoas. The psoas is a really interesting muscle. It's the only one that bridges our legs to our spine of anything in the body. So I call it the bridge. And when we use it, it not only helps us to lift our legs up like this, as we know that it's like a flexor for the legs, but also it's a spinal stabilizer, which means that when you're doing back bends and you're cramming it into your lower back, that is probably because you're just letting the spine just kind of hang there in the lumbar curve back here, and not counteracting it with the action of the psoas, which wants you to forward bend or take the legs up. So it's doing the opposite of a back bend. So while you're back bending, the psoas fires and makes you try to forward bend. And that gives enough support so that you're not hanging in the lower back, you're not compressing the discs back there so heavily, you're getting a little bit more length. So when we're just doing very simple psoas work, when we're leaning back a little bit in the beginning of practice, just sitting there and breathing for a second, trying to get out of these quads, the top of the quads, which grip and take over for the psoas. So the psoas goes from the back of the thigh bone, the lesser trochanter here. It comes forward, you got one on each leg, it comes forward over the hip bone, so it'd be like here. And then it dives back behind the abdominal sac. So we have like a water balloon of abdominal organs in here. And the psoas goes behind all that and starts to spin up each side of the low back spine, and then connects somewhere in here by the low back of the ribs. And that actually, the psoas here interweaves or interdigitates through connective tissue, all that kind of knitted stuff, with the legs of the breathing diaphragm. So what you do with the psoas directly affects how you breathe. Whether your breathing is stable and can really move, whether it's locked down, whether it's weak and doesn't really move at all. So learning to use the psoas and stretch it optimally is really important in health of breath. So from the psoas, the inner thighs, these are all our deep core line muscles. Inner thighs also connect to the pelvic diaphragm, those are the golden sun muscles we were talking about, all the muscles that ring the inside of your pelvis and base of the spine, so bulb muscles like that. So when you're kind of squeezing on the exhale, and I'm sorry because we did a lot of this in the first class, but as you're squeezing up on the exhale, you're firming all of this, you're stabilizing the sacrum, you're also communicating with the deep core line, the inner thigh muscles, and psoas.